The following is an excerpt from Unconstrained, the Constraint Led Approach to Learning Martial Arts and Beyond by Kevin Secours, available worldwide on Amazon. In the mid-20th century, psychologists James J. Gibson and Eleanor J. Gibson created a new school of thought in response to the dominant behaviorist and cognitivist doctrines of the time. Their so-called ecological approach emphasized the importance of understanding behavior within the context of a given environment. They proposed that every environment offered individuals different possibilities for interaction, which they called affordances, and that there was a functional relationship between every organism and its environment. Environments are not simply a collection of physical objects. Instead, each individual uniquely perceives and responds to what is around them. For the first time, someone was arguing that perception, action, and cognition were deeply connected to the physical and social environment. The same action can be perceived very differently as environments change. Something that is simple to perform in one setting might be significantly more complicated in another. For the martial artist, there's a huge difference between training in an ideal, safe dojo environment, training against a resistant opponent, or even training in environments that more closely match our likely real-world settings. Every environment will have a very different effect on us psychologically, emotionally, our processing, our cognition, and the responses that are available to us. Many people wrongly assume that self-defense skills are mostly instinctive, that they are somehow intrinsic ability that are not dependent upon extrinsic knowledge. To give you a different perspective, let's look at the field of language acquisition. Scholar Noam Chomsky argued that the linguistic input that children receive when they are young cannot account for the complexity and precision of their language development. He referred to this as the poverty of the stimulus. Simply put, he argued, how can children evolve to develop complex language patterns when they're being showered in simplified baby speak? He believed it was impossible, and that humans must possess some innate sense of language that gets revealed to them as they mature. The ecological perspective refuses the idea of the poverty of the stimulus, and the notion that the perceiver is some kind of passive character. If we stick with the problem of language acquisition, an ecological approach would argue that children are exposed to a vast array of linguistic stimuli that far exceed the baby talk that might be directed towards them. They hear adults talking around them in the background all the time, using complex patterns, modeling advanced language. Particularly in modern settings, this can include various media sources. A child's linguistic learning environment far exceeds what is intended for them, and it includes a rich, highly layered exposure. A very obvious example of this is when a child starts to mimic vulgar language.
Fuck a snowman.
What?
Fuck. Oh, fuck.
It's just a goat.
Mom, it's a fucking goat.
Although in most cases, no one intentionally taught it to them, they internalized it from their environments that they were exposed to. From an ecological perspective, children are highly adaptive. They learn to recognize patterns and to predict social interactions that are directed at them. If you've ever tried to learn a new language, you know firsthand that immersion in a language environment is far more important than extra classroom time. Immersion in the actual environment where a language is being spoken, or at least something that resembles it as much as possible, is essential to learning the skill in a functional way. In the ecological approach, we are in states of optimal learning when we can explore our environments and the affordances of everything in them. In a conventional setting, for example, a chair might afford you the use or the ability to sit. It might even give you the ability to stand on it to reach a higher shelf. But if we put that same chair in a self-defense setting, the chair now gives you the affordance of an improvised weapon. It can be used as a barricade to block a door, or it can be used as a shield. Our perception of our environment will change as our needs change, and the affordance of any environment will shift based on these cognitive changes. So in the ecological approach, exposure and interaction give meaning and context to our environments. You can sit in your room and read the dictionary all day long, but true functional skill can be gained much more easily, more efficiently, and more quickly by actually being in the field, getting into the muck, making mistakes, and forging forward. As we'll see, situations co-produce knowledge with our cognition. Our environments are the engine of learning. So by varying your training environments and setting goals and limits on these environments, we are encouraged to explore and to utilize what's around us. This creates more durable, adaptive, and lasting skills, and we'll achieve this much more quickly than we would otherwise in conventional environments.